the first level casemate right here, guys. There's 109 of these first level casemates. I was telling you guys about 110 cisterns out here. There's the one out there in the parade ground, one below each one of these first level casemates. The idea they had for drinking water was to collect on the rainwater out here. They felt they can come up with 1.5 million gallons of drinking water just by collecting rainwater out here. And to do this, they had the cisterns down below. On the top terraplane level, they built sluice channels into the structure itself. They channeled the water down to these center columns right there. Then dumped through iron conduits. It went through a midway sand filtration set there in the middle, and then dumped through another iron conduit down into the cisterns down below. Now the top level was filled in with sand as well, another filtering agent up there. So this system was a pretty good little system. The problem with it is that as they built this fort up, of course it got heavier and it settled down. It settled down over a foot. And when it settled down that much, it came to rest on top of these cisterns. Now these cisterns were built to hold water, not support the weight of the structure. So 104 of them cracked under the pressure of this fort and were breached by salt water, contaminating the drinking water supply. The other 5 that survived it had another issue with them as well. See, they used the sand they used for filtration. They mined locally off of Bush Key over there. Stuff had salt all through it. So as the fresh water went through, it came out brackish on the other end. So all they had was brackish water. This created a lot of issues. Number one, you have dehydration being a big factor out here. Without sufficient amount of drinking water, you have huge issues with that. Furthermore, they were planning on having gardens out here for their fruits and vegetables. They can't do that anymore because they don't have enough water for that. So now you have scurvy as an issue at that point. And they tried to ship fruits and vegetables out, but the Union, coming from as far as they had to with large vessels of large shipments, by the time it got here, it was all rotten. So they couldn't utilize that. Now merchants could make their way out here. They set up on the outskirts of the fort out there, and they would actually sell to the men here. They could use smaller vessels, bringing smaller loads, and coming from closer areas. Smaller vessels can travel a lot at a greater speed. So that actually helped out a lot. Now another problem that they had out here was livestock. They planned on putting livestock out here, but here again, water being an issue. And then orchards. They were going to have orchards, but the problem with the orchards out here was the root systems. The root systems would be set up on this island. This island's got a saltwater base to it. So the saltwater's going to choke out the roots of those trees and kill them off. So lots of issues along the way with this fort, lots of issues in this area out here. Tell you about the casemates themselves. Now, as far as the Columbia cannons are concerned, I'll tell you about them when we get to the 3rd level. I got the visual aid of the smoothbore bobbin to help out with that. But you have this track system that used to be in here. It's remnants of a track system, and remnants of another track right here. And this is for the carriage that's sat on top of here. It was a swiveling carriage. That's how they could train a 125 cannon on you at once, as they could redirect the shot and angle of each of these cannons. So it can swing back and forth here. Now the tongue of the carriage goes inside this groove right here, and these 2 cubby holes on either side are just a couple little opened areas to allow a couple more degrees of swing on that carriage. Now you have your cannon mount on top. You can slide this cannon back, do your loading and everything for it, slide it back forward, and the barrel sticks out this big hole right here. With that big hole being wide open, they have an issue with that. Cannonball careens off the side of the fort here, it can create brick shrapnel, and brick shrapnel can cause damage to your cannon and even your gun crew. You don't want that. So the first, the original engineer of this fort, Joseph Totten, comes up with the Totten shutter. Now the Totten shutter are just 2 doors that are balanced in the closed position with a locking pin that holds it into place. Now when you're ready to fire that cannon off, you pop that locking pin, you fire the cannon. The gases that rush out that barrel prior to that cannonball have enough force behind them to force those doors open. The cannonball then flies out, and then because they're balanced in the closed position, the doors recoil shut again, and the locking pin falls back into place. It is a genius idea, and it works. It works well. The problem they have with this is the material that they used. You see, they used probably one of the only materials that they had at hand, and the cheapest material at hand, and that's iron, and iron rusts. And when it does, it grows 60% of its size. And that's exactly what happened out here. It starts rusting out, and it starts growing in size. And the first problem that you have are these hinges stop functioning properly. So that becomes an issue there. But more importantly, they had built these shutters into the masonry. So you have these little veins of iron that go behind the masonry. Well, when that stuff starts rusting out, it peels that masonry off the wall and allows water to get in behind it and eroding it out. And eventually, all this falls off and sloughs off into the moat. On the way out, I don't know if you guys noticed on that wall out there was a tremendous amount of damage out there with scaffolding set up on it. All of that damage out there is from these Totten shutters. So you can walk the moat wall all the way around the outside and look at this fort, and you can see the discoloration in the grout lines to know where they did reconstructive work for the Totten shutters, and you can clearly see on the west wall over there what needs to be done and the kind of damage that they were looking at with some of the stuff. And that one has the most amount of damage out of all the walls. One other thing I'm going to tell you about right here is the moat wall. The reason for this moat wall there were three of them. The first reason is to keep the ocean at bay. Kind of tough to tell today because it's a very flat, calm day today, but however, when the wind picks up, you get that the ocean out there, you get some 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, even 6 foot waves out there. If you let those careen off the side of your curtain wall, that's going to erode the lower level of your curtain wall. You don't want to see that. So that moat wall eats up all that energy, keeps all that down low. And with this little bit of moat water in here, you don't stir up nearly that kind of wave energy. So that's the number one reason for it. The number two reason is to keep small vessels at bay. You don't want somebody sailing some small vessel up to the side of your curtain wall here, detonating a charge and blowing their own little hole in an access point into your curtain wall. So that's the number two reason. The third reason for this mode here is the septic system that they had in place here. They had the outhouses that went right across the front faces of all these kitchens areas right here. Basically, this is just a little room with a little hole cut in there where you sit down, take care of your things there, and then there's a bucket down inside this hole. And when that fills up, you pull that bucket out of there. And there were little trap door locations inside these first level casemates here where you dump this stuff down inside that hole, and that's trenched into the moat. And then when high tide comes, all of that matter washes out into the moat. And then when low tide comes, there's breaks in the moat wall and it washes out to sea. Now the problem with this is that's a 10-foot deep moat. And the tidal change out here is 2 feet. That gives you 8 feet that's unaccounted for. And it's not going anywhere. And that 8 feet is still sitting in your moat. So eventually you still have this matter sitting inside your moat here and causing more and more of a stench and more trouble. It gets so bad to the point where they don't even dump the buckets in there anymore. They dump them straight out in the ocean because that's the only way it's going to make it there. So I imagine anyone trying to come out here to do anything to this place gets within 20 miles of this place and probably starts smelling that and just trying to turn around. I don't want to mess with that. Another thing with it all is that if you had to get that drawbridge down, you had to swim through the moat to get that down, right? I don't think so. So yeah, just a lot of systems with this fort that end up failing. And this was supposed to be like the best of the best when it came to the forts. They were taking all the top of the line systems that they knew of with these forts and put them all together in this super fort out here. And they never even stopped to think of correcting any issues that you might have come across with things out here, or even setting all these engineers down together in the same room and saying, look, here's what we have, figure out what's wrong. Because I don't think it had anything to do with men's egos, because men don't really have egos. I can't really think about what it would be. Oh wait, no, that's not right. We do have egos. So let's make our way down this way, guys. We're going to start climbing the staircase.